Oh, Alabama. While I appreciate all of the material you keep sending my way, could you just stop all your nonsense? Walker County Sheriff Nicholas the Ridiculous Smith is in a bit of trouble. Why? Remember when I talked about how Nick and Chief Deputy Ralph Williams had hired Andrew Neves McDonald as a deputy to serve in Walker County? And remember how Dandy Andy wasn't supposed to be hired as any kind of law enforcement officer on account of him holding a gun to a woman's head he was arresting who was already in handcuffs back when he worked in Arizona. And that led to him being fired for excessive force and losing his Arizona certification and then getting added to the National Decertification Index. Well, the district attorney in Walker County, Bill Adair, requested records related to Andy via a subpoena to Ralph and a letter to Nick. And Nick just said, "Nah, I don't have to send those. I'm the sheriff. I'm the top dog, the big man who definitely doesn't use steroids." Okay, Nick might not have actually said those words, but he never sent the records. So in essence, he just said, "Screw you" to the DA. What a little rascal, right? His big man act isn't really working out for him, though, because the DA has now requested that Nick and/or the custodian of the records be held in contempt. And while Walker County has been over there being its own brand of a mess, just up the road a bit, Cullman County said, "Check this, girl." Earlier this year, a special agent with the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, Jamie King, assisted the Alabama Examiners of Public Accounts with taking an inventory of the evidence room at the Hanceville Police Department, and man, oh man, did it not go well. The district attorney of Cullman County, Champ Crocker, who could probably win a contest for best name of any DA in the state, released some documents and photos yesterday that had to do with that inventory. The inventory takers found that there were 650 packages of evidence, and 249 of them didn't have a case number associated with them. There were also 96 firearms in the evidence room, and 30 of those didn't have a case number either. But it gets better. There were 78 evidence envelopes and bags that were torn open with the contents missing. Here's a list of the contents. It's drugs, medications, and a gun. And there's still more. The mayor of Hanceville, Jimmy Sawyer, later contacted Jamie King and let him know that, oopsie, they had discovered more evidence lockers used for temporary storage that supposedly no one knew about back when the inventory check was happening. Sure, Jimmy. Everyone believes you. There was actually evidence from 2006 in their temporary storage. That is some pretty long-lasting temporary. This time, 25 packages of evidence were found, and 4 didn't have a case number associated with them. One of the packages used to hold $983, but someone had cut the bottom out of the package and helped themselves to the cash. A second evidence package used to have 2 boxes of Winchester Black Talon bullets in it, but they were missing as well. And whoever they confiscated them from had been arrested for possession of armor-piercing bullets. But according to the report, those particular bullets aren't of the armor-piercing variety. However, they do hold a collector's value of about $90 a box. Well, how about that? Now, you might be wondering just how in the heckety heck did all this inventory get to be such a mess? How can evidence be missing or not cataloged correctly? Well, I think these photos answer those questions. I mean, when you have your evidence in a Milky Way box that Peggy went down and got at the Dollar General because she didn't see any good reason to spend money on fancy boxes, you might not care much about your evidence. Fine, I don't know if there was anyone named Peggy at the Hanceville Police Department, but the rest remains. If you don't care enough about the evidence to put it in proper boxes with proper labels, then you don't care enough to make sure it doesn't get stolen or that it actually has a case number on it. Their evidence room looks like that one room on an episode of Hoarders where you're thinking, oh, that's not so bad. But then you find out it's boxes full of used coffee filters and yogurt lids. The good news in all of this is that the entire Hanceville Police Department was disbanded back in March. This was after 5 of the police officers on the force had been indicted by a grand jury on multiple charges, including tampering with evidence, and after the Alabama law enforcement agency discovered how the evidence at the department had been mishandled. There was even one of the officers who let his wife in on the fun, and she was indicted on distribution of a controlled substance. The bad news is that same grand jury found that the cases against the former officers and the wife were unprosecutable because of how horribly the department had operated. They also threw out another 58 felony cases because of the actions of those former officers. So the grand jury knew the officers took the evidence, but didn't have enough evidence to take them to trial because of how badly the evidence was handled to begin with. I think it's something like that anyway. Mayor Jimmy Sawyer released a statement that said the city of Hanceville was committed to hiring a new police chief and rebuilding the department from the ground up. Well, good luck with that, Jimmy. So far, it hasn't happened. If I didn't know that there were entirely and wholly good people in Alabama, I'd suggest getting the water and soil tested. But it's not that. It seems as though there are law enforcement agencies that have been allowed to run unchecked for too long. Hopefully, this cleanup on aisle 4 that has started in Walker and Cullman counties will spread to other counties where corruption might be hiding behind a badge or possibly even in a candy bar box. Let me know in the comments how you think the request for a contempt order against Nick Smith is going to play out. Will Nick blame someone else? Say that he'll be gall-darned because he was sure he'd already sent those records? Or will he continue to let his ego tear himself a new booty hole? And I'd love to hear your opinion on Hanceville. If they do manage to snag a new police chief and rebuild the police department, will they ever regain the public's trust? I'll be back with more updates about Alabama whenever the next scandal hits, which could be later today. Until next time, stay safe and be happy.